for coming to Becerra. Today is Sunday, November 10th. We're almost next to Thanksgiving already. Becerra is an organization. This is the Spanish one. We operate with volunteers, and our mission is to study Spiritism and provide charity and a lot of love. We forgot we're broadcasting live through YouTube, so please, your phones on vibrate or off. Thank you very much. Today we're going to be talking about this beautiful book, Our Daily Bread, written by Francisco Candido Javier, and it dictated by the Spirit of Emmanuel. We'll be talking about chapter 155, Against Foolishness. Are you so foolish that having begun in the Spirit, you have ended up in the flesh? This was said by Paul in Galatians chapter 3, verse 3. One of the greatest disasters of the disciples' path is the erroneous understanding with which they begin their efforts in the higher spheres, but end up reversing course toward the lower kingdoms. Thus, they are like prospectors who start out looking for gold, but wind up being content with the muck of the swampland. Such failures are common in the various areas of religious thought. We see patients who direct their thoughts to the higher realms, nourishing noble impulses and precious intentions. Once healed, however, they think about the best way to use their newly found health to acquire easy money. After being assisted by friends from the sublime spheres regarding the transcendental issues of eternal life, in their quest for unworthy objectives, they try to attribute to these same benefactors the role of human police. Countless disciples persist in working for the good. However, when less favorable times appear, they passively yield to discouragement and demand a reward for the few years on earth in which they try to serve in the harvest of the divine master. They completely overlook the many millennials in which they have been served by the Lord. Such spiritual anomalies which interfere greatly with the disciples' efforts originate from the poisonous filters composed of the strong desire for recompense. That is so true. Therefore, let us strive against the expectation of reward, so that in the company of humility, as the messengers of the imperishable light, we may proceed with the task that we have started. In explaining Paul's verse, Emmanuel tells us that one of our bigger problems, is that many of us begin putting a lot of effort in reaching higher spiritual grounds, only to end reversing course and ending up in a lower spiritual level. Some direct their thoughts to heavens when in need of being healed, but after receiving assistance from their noble spiritual friends, they unfortunately continue to look for a way to better themselves, disregarding the pain for others. Let us be thankful for the things that we have, proud of the good we've done with humility. We are the carriers of the imperishable light and expect nothing in return. But above all, let us never forget that the purpose of it all is to go ahead and proceed with the task that we started. Very deep words. And with those beautiful words, I will ask you to please close your eyes, relax, take a deep breath, and help me out with a little prayer. Let's elevate our thought to our mighty God. Let us thank Him for all the things that we get every day, we take for granted. The air we breathe, the light that we see, the nature, the flowers, the birds. Let us thank Him for the possibility of being here, waking up this morning with our family, surrounded by love. Let's thank Him for this Center Becerra de Meneses, for all those that work here so diligently. Let's thank Him for all the people here today and those listening on the internet. Thank you, Lord, for being so good to us. We ask you, dear Lord, to help us every day to face our issues, our problems with humility. Give us the strength to face them. Give us the strength for every day helping others. And above all, dear Lord, we ask you to help those that are sick, those that are lonely, those that are hungry, and those that are looking for some relief of the pain that they carry, sometimes in their body, sometimes in their heart. Give them the light, that light that you can only give, so they can find peace in their hearts and strength to go on. With these words, dear Lord, we ask you to welcome our sister Janaina Machado, and so that she can help us and deliver her message. That Janaina is the secretary of the Spiritist Federation of Florida. She also is seats of Light President, which is her center at Fort Myers. We welcome her. We thank you for being here with us today, and please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me again. It's been a while since last time, but we're here today. So the chapter we're going to talk about today is without charity, there is no salvation. And this chapter has so much information. And in 45 minutes, it would be impossible to cover the whole chapter. So what I did, I focused in few aspects, so we could at least get one point and understand that point instead of trying to go through the whole chapter, and then it's overwhelming. But the name of the chapter itself, it's already, kind of intriguing, because we're going to see about salvation. And when we talk about salvation, what does that mean? Because in Spiritism, we have a much broader view of what happens to us before, during, and after life. But many people don't have that knowledge. So they have the knowledge of a smaller part, which does not mean that it's not correct and that we are right. It's only as if we think about going up a step, a stair, you will see the higher you go, the better view you see. So that's how I see Spiritism. It helps us to view and understand better things that have been around for generations. Okay, this is the one that I will use. So this is a question that I put there. There are only 2 things that I did it myself. Everything else is a text from the gospel. So what does the Spirit needs to do in order to be saved? So we must understand first what is to be saved. What is the Spirit needs to do to be saved? But what does that mean? So the chapter begins with the Lord talking. I will make a small summary of it. Talking to two people, one in the right, one in the left. And then he says to the one in the right, you who have helped me. When I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was cold, you kept me warm. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. You come to my right. And then he asks, but Lord, when did I give you food or shelter or went to the prison? And then he says, every time you help someone, in reality, you are doing it to me. And then the other one who's on the left, for that one, he says, you who did not give me food or shelter or kept me warm, you come to the left door. And then he asks, but when didn't I give you food or water or shelter or went to the prison to visit you? And then he says, every time you failed to help someone. This is my own words. You're failing me. Because today we're going to see that as a spiritist, we understand that we are all brothers and sisters. There is no difference between one another. And Jesus was the one being that was able to look to every single person and see the final product of that spirit. Not what we see today or then, but what he will become in the future after having gone through all the experiences of reincarnating and having to live with, within a community. Okay, it's here. So on the Spirits book, we have a very interesting question. Because when we talk about doing good to others, then Kardec thought a very interesting question. In order to be pleasing God and to ensure our future situation, so the situation here, future is our future life after we leave the body and go back to the spiritual realm. Is it enough simply not to do what is evil? That's a very intelligent question. Because a lot of times we think, well, I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not killing, I'm not stealing, I'm not, you name it. But the answer is, okay, no. All must do good to the best of their abilities, for all will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good they left undone. So yesterday when Simão Pedro was talking about the talents, that every person receives a talent. He spoke in a way that I even made a comment out there, I don't remember to whom. I think Maggie said, well, tomorrow Gianna is talking, and then I said, it's a shame that I get to talk after Simão Pedro because, after the work he has done. And then somebody said, no, he did it what he could. You're going to do what you can. And then he said after, during the talk, that every person has a talent. So God will not ask you count. If he gave me one talent, he's not going to ask me count for the talent of the other who has 5. So when they say here, when the answers of the spirits is, for all will answer, so all of us will answer for the evil that has resulted from the good they left undone, meaning if we could prevent something and we omitted ourselves, we didn't, we will be held responsible partially for what has happened to our brother and sister. And then you may say, well, but what can I do to someone that's far away from me? Because in reality, what can we do for those people who are at this moment living under war, that their houses are being burned? What can we do? We're here. They're all the way across the globe. So we're going to see here that when the Spirit brings us, without charity, there is no salvation. We're going to kind of go deep in the meanings of why without charity there is no salvation. Because we're going to see another two aspects about without the church there is no salvation, and without the truth there is no salvation. And then at the end, we're going to realize that charity, we are all able to do it, whether it's materially or a prayer like Maggie just said. So what can we do when we see on the news a place, that they are under war, and you see kids crying and women, and we can pray, because guess what? We are involved in a net. Just like we have Wi-Fi, every time we turn on our Wi-Fi with prayer, we will be connected to the next person that's praying. And that next person will be connected to the next. Next thing you know, we have a net of good thoughts going towards those people. Yes, it will not take the pain away, but it will give, at least for one moment, in their heart, a feeling that they're not alone, that somehow they will make it out of it. And even if they don't, in our eyes, when they wake up in the spiritual realm, the angels that we may call our high order spirits will be waiting for them, because they have gone through the trial and expiation, and they left victorious. So I want to bring an example of something that really touched my heart. I always cry about, if I see advertisement on TV and they have a song, somebody saying something that touches my heart, I cry for nothing. But because I get involved, I think about it, I imagine. So I was watching a while ago on the Brazilian channel. I don't know if some of you may know, some may not. It's a show called Caldeirão do Hulk. So once a year, they do what it's called, they give 5 awards for people who makes a difference to others in Brazil. And this year, they had Wagner from Fraternidade Sem Fronteiras. He was one of the 5 people awarded. So I was watching the show because I wanted to see Wagner. And then I see this person, Valdeci Ferreira. I kind of did my own translation here. I will read and then I will talk about it. So, with a different vision for the Brazilian prison system, Valdeci Ferreira dedicates himself fully to the Apex project, humanized prisons that restore dignity and re-socialize their prisoners. While in conventional prisons, 80% of prisoners return to the world of crime, Apex in Minas Gerais have achieved incredible numbers. Only 20% of prisoners return to commit a crime. And then he said one phrase that truly struck me. He said, I truly believe that no one is irreversible. When I heard that, I remembered about Jesus. When he was living with people, and he would look you in the eye and think about it. Yes, you have a chance. As long as you want to, I'm here to help you, but you must want. So the video they show for him, if you have a chance, look it up on YouTube. Then you will understand, more about it. He was 18 years old. He went to like a caravan of love, with a youth group. And it was the first time he went. And then one person told him, after we go to visit the elderly, we're going to the prison. Would you like to go with us? And then he said, well, why not? So he went. And when he arrived there, he was so shocked by what he saw. For the ones who knows about the prison system in Brazil, unfortunately, a small room that may fit, let's say 5 to 10, may have 50 people in it. So he saw the way that people were there, even though they are criminals. Yes, they are. They committed a crime against the civilians. But after all, they're humans. And if we're seeing here that we are brothers and sisters, they are our brothers and sisters. So he got so emotional with that, and he started going week after week, doing like a Bible study. Talking to them, just having a nice conversation. Imagine going to your best friend that will not judge you for what you are or for what you did. Because when we love someone, yes, we know their imperfections, but we still love the person. So he made a commitment, and his family got so worried. They said, there was a point that I thought he's going to be killed. And it's been 35 years that he's been doing that. People from all over the world goes to Minas Gerais to learn about the prison system, that he is part of it. During the video they show, I made, a few phrases here. I highlighted a few phrases that he said about the prisoners. But there is one important point about that prison, the APACs, which is the humanized prisons that restore dignity and resocialize their prisoners. The prisoners hold the key to the prison, to the cells. So every week, one person is in charge. And then there is one guy that he says, the first time they gave me the key and I hold the key in my hands, I had two thoughts. I can flee away, or I can show that I am worth it, that he trusts in me. So he said, at the end of the day, I went, I locked all the cells, I kept the key, I locked my own. In the morning, I opened, and then that's how they do. And the director, said, we haven't had one single incident that the prisoner flees away having the key. You know why? Because when you know that somebody loves you unconditionally, even you being a prisoner, you don't want to break the trust. So he said, I am convinced in these 35 years of work that love never fails. And no one, absolutely no one, is able to resist love all their life. At some point, the person surrenders to the force of love. Love is able to transform everything and every heart. And when we were talking about salvation, We're not talking about going to heaven and just sitting around and enjoying the commodity of doing nothing. Salvation means work. Salvation means that we are here, not on vacation. Some people have the ability that they have more money, they can do more. Some don't have money. So if we were entitled to do charity only with material means, what would be for the ones who have no material means to do? So this person, Valdeci Ferreira, gave a perfect example of a charity that can transform the spirit. The bread will make you stop your hunger for the moment. And yes, it is necessary. But what the person really needs is the transformation of the spirit. And when you have someone that trusts you and that believes in you, you don't want to disappoint them. Even if in the beginning you do it because you don't want to disappoint the other person. But later, with years going by, you learn that you don't want to disappoint yourself. And then he goes on. To well educate people, you must first love them. So when we're here in the Spiritist Center, when we're talking about love, about God, about Jesus, and then in a way we think, well, we are trying to educate so you can learn about, the spiritual realm or how to live a better life. But in order for us to be able to do that, we must first love. Because love will transform any heart. If we don't love it, you can talk for years and centuries. It will not going to change a bit. But if that person that is listening to you see in your eyes that you truly believe in them, that connection will make the fire to spark. Like Simone was talking about yesterday, that when we have a wood that it's not catching fire, but it still has, the fire, and if it only has a little bit of more oxygen, it catches fires again. So that's the heart of somebody who is in need. They're in need of love, of being helped, not only with the material. And so I wanted to bring this example because it really touched me. And for me, he is an example of a person that when he discarnates, can you imagine the line of spirits who will be waiting for him? Not because he did something great, because he's not doing this to be on TV. He's been doing that for 35 years. He dedicated his whole life. So probably there will not only be the prisoners that he helped, but the loved ones who were praying that that person would come out of the crime life. Mother, fathers, brothers, sisters, the spiritual mentors. Can you imagine? We have people like this all around. We just don't see it because usually they work quietly. They don't make a big noise of what they're doing. They just do it. So the invitation, when we talk about without charity, there is no salvation, it's to invite us to do the same, remembering that every person has a talent. So if he is able to work 35 years with prisoners, that's his talent. But you may have a talent with kids. You may have a talent that on your workplace, you are a peacemaker. Instead of, when things are starting to catch fire, you can be the one to bring a word that instead of making the fire bigger, you can cool it down. Charity is done in any possibilities. I mean, there is no number for charity. So Jesus taught us humility and charity are the things Jesus never ceased to recommend and for which he himself gave the example. His life was a self-sacrifice. But yesterday we learned about sacrifice. What really sacrifice means? Sacred work. Because for him, he was not sacrificing himself. He was just fulfilling the work of God. It was natural for him. For us, we really have to invest our time, mind, like, today. Maybe some people had their alarm clock turned on to come, but then maybe something happened, they couldn't make it. But some of you maybe even went out of your way to be able to be here. And that counts. Jesus was able to do all of these things without even thinking it was in him. Because he has gone through what we are going now. Spiritism tells us there is no creation made different. We all have the same start. So Jesus once was at the level of evolution that we are today. Of course, that was billions of years ago. And then in billions of years from now, we may be able to reach a level of evolution that we can be considered, pretty good spirits. I'm not going to compare to Jesus, but, But pride and selfishness are the things he never ceased to combat. We know in the Bible, only about 3 years of Jesus' life. But knowing Jesus, what we know, do you think that he only did all those things for 3 years? Since a child, he was able to do things. There is one, I don't remember now the book, but it's from Umberto de Campos. It's not Boa Nova, it's another one. That when Mary, Jesus is a baby, and she brings the baby to the temple, to be presented. And then the highest priest holds Jesus in the arm, and then he looks at him and he can see that Jesus was, okay, let me try to put it in a different way before I go on. When somebody has a mission, they will not tell you, but you can feel it. So the high priest was looking Jesus in the eye, and he thought, what are you doing here in this chaos? How are you going to able to make a difference? And then baby Jesus, as a baby, he looks the high priest in the eye. That's the description of Umberto de Campos. And then Jesus puts his hand in his heart, knowing that everything will be okay, because Jesus came to bring the good news to us, but especially to be felt in our hearts. Because every time we feel it, we do it, we learn. When we don't feel it, we may listen, and it's just like coming in one ear and going out the other. But he did more than recommend charity. He put in clear and explicit terms as an absolute condition for future happiness. So now I ask you, if you only had one day left to live, today was our last day, if Bezerra de Menezes would materialize now and say, okay, I have good news for you, today's your last day, how do you think it would be when we come? This is just, a figurative, that I'm going to say now, in front of the judge. What would that happen? Would we be to the right, put on the right side, or the left? Meaning the right when we're doing things right, left when we're not, doesn't mean that we are not doing something bad, but if we're not doing something good, it's not good enough. So you don't have to tell me, but we all can think about where we would stand. In that judgment, there will what will be taken into consideration in passing sentence? So this is a question in the gospel. All of these are in the gospel, but the last slide that I made of myself. So in that judgment, when you are now, tomorrow, we're all gone. We're there with the spirits. So in that final judgment, what will be taken into consideration in passing sentence? Oh, no. Oh, what happened? So, it's my note here. I forget that I have two things. Upon what will the indictment be based? Will the judge ask if one has fulfilled this or that formality, or observed such and such outward practice? Okay, let me see here. So I'm going to read what I have here, because here it's kind of spread out. No. He will ask about one thing only. So when we are in front of the judge, which in this case we know it's our conscience, it's not going to be somebody with the, the hammer saying, you go here. It's our conscience. He will ask about one thing only, the practice of charity. And in passing sentence, he will say, you who assisted your brothers and sisters, go to the right. You who were harsh toward them, go to the left. Okay, I guess all of them will be but that's okay. I have my notes here. I'll read to you guys. Will he inquire as to the orthodoxy of their faith? Like today we're here with spiritists. So that's our faith. What about the others, Is he going to ask about our faith? Will he make a distinction between those who believe in one manner and those who believe in another? Oh, at least the answer was good. No. For Jesus places the Samaritan, regarded as a heretic, but who showed love towards his neighbor, above orthodoxy that lacks charity. I'm not going to go into the Good Samaritan parable, but I will only make a few comments about it. So we understand. Does everybody knows about the Good Samaritan parable? Does somebody does not know about? So in that parable, there is somebody hurt in the street. So let's think about, let's bring to our context for our days. So let's say we're leaving the Spiritist Center, and on the first light sign, there is somebody on the floor, beaten, naked. You cannot recognize. So what do? Do you help? You don't? So let's pretend, because we're part of the parable, Spiritist, we look and we say, well, it's not, I don't think it's my family or a friend. So somebody can help. So we move on. And then another person comes from another religion. I'm not going to name names, but, let's say from any other religious faith. They look and they have the same thought. Well, it's not my brother, my sister, nobody that I know, so somebody else will help. And he moves on. And then there comes somebody that in the eyes of society has no value. And that one person looks, has compassion in the heart, picks up the person, puts in the car or bicycle or whatever they have at the moment, bring to a place where the health can be restored. So when Jesus says here, for Jesus places the Samaritan, regarded as a heretic, but who showed love toward his neighbor. Because who is our neighbor? That was the question of the doctor of the law. because he wanted to trick Jesus, and then Jesus is like, okay, you want me to trick, you want to trick me, so let me answer you. And at the end, he asks to the doctor of the law, now, who is the one who loved the brother or sister? And the doctor of the law in the parable does not like the Samaritan. So he can't even say the Samaritan did. He only says the one who showed compassion. So every day we're faced, every day we can be a good Samaritan. The question is, are we only being good Samaritans when somebody's watching us? So somebody can take account, oh, I'm going to use Enise as an example. I saw Enise the other day helping that elderly woman. The question is, would Enise help the elderly woman if no one was watching? Because when we talk about charity and salvation, that's what we're talking about. The sentiments that brings her towards our neighbor without expecting anything in return. Even just a look in the eye and say, oh, you did good. Unfortunately, some people do that, and they still doing good because the person who received the benefit was, had a benefit. But the one who was doing not by heart, but just to receive, a recompense, in reality already did receive the recompense. Here, will not receive there. So in order to understand without the charity there is no salvation, we must understand about without the church there is no salvation, and without the truth there is no salvation. So while the maximum of without charity there is no salvation is based on a universal principle and gives all God's children access to supreme happiness. So we're going to see here that when we're talking about charity, everyone is capable and everybody has the opportunity to achieve the supreme happiness. If not today, tomorrow. But the dogma, without the church, there is no salvation, is based not upon a fundamental faith in God and the immortality of the soul, a faith common to all religions, but instead upon a special faith in particular dogmas. It is exclusive and absolute. I was in Brazil, last month on vacation with my family, and my father and I don't share the same belief, even though we believe in the same God and the same Jesus. But we do not share the same belief as far as a religion. And then the first week I was there, he was driving me crazy. Like, he was talking to me, and it's almost like every time I would feel more frustrated, the more he would do. But I don't think he was doing consciously, because being a spiritist, we understand that energy moves us. So if I am sending out, I don't like what you're saying, and then it's like when he receives the information, oh, she's not liking, so I'm going to do more. It's unconscious. So one day we're going to my aunt's house, and we see two missionaries. And then my father makes a comment. And then he says, well, unfortunately, they can do all this. They can give up their life, whatever they're doing. But if they do not accept Jesus the way he thinks it has to be accepted, they will not find salvation. And that was like the last drop that I needed. I was like, okay, I don't want to fight, but I have to say something. So I asked him, I said, yeah, it makes sense. And then I said, okay, so let's begin from the beginning. And then my mother, was like, I said, so you believe in God. I believe in God. You believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. But I think we believe in different gods. And then he said, why? I said, well, because the God I know is loving, loves unconditional. So, what would be for the people who never heard about Jesus? What's going to happen with them? Because we have been in contact with a doctrine that tells us about Jesus. But what about those people who may be living in a country, or maybe Indians, or are in Africa? They never heard about Jesus. So you are telling me that our God will put those people that have not, that just because they don't know Jesus, in your view, are going to hell? I said, I'm sorry, we do not believe in the same God. And then it was like that silent. And from that day on, he didn't say anything anymore. But it made me think, because I was like, I cannot see that way. And we're going to see here that when we talk about a dogma, it puts everyone in a box. So if you don't belong here, you're out of the box. So the only ones who are saved are the ones in the little box. Spiritism shows us that no, it does not matter the religion, the faith, the color, where we live. No. So when we believe that without the church there is no salvation, instead of uniting God's children, it divides them. Instead of stirring them to love their brothers and sisters, it maintains and sanctions the strife among the sectarians of various denominations, which mutually regard one another as deemed for all eternity, even though they might be relatives and friends in this world. So I put this picture because I thought, okay, so let's think about, between my father and I can use us as an example. If I was the one stepping on the ladder, reaching out to him just because we don't share the same beliefs or the way he believes that things has to be. And then would be he looking at me from the top and say, oh, sorry, can't help you. I told you. He would never do that. If he would never do that, can you imagine God doing that? So that's the beauty. And I'm not talking, making emphasis, like talking negative about other religions. No. Simone yesterday told us everybody has a time. And then when we had that conversation in the car, then I had a thought in my mind, okay, last one, stop here, otherwise, And then we didn't talk more about, religion. Thank God. But the question is, who's right or who's wrong? I am not right just because I am a spiritist. Because if I know all of this, if I talk about spiritism but don't do nothing, at the end of the day, I'm not doing charity. At the end of the day, if I do that, I would be just being like, oh, without the church, there is no salvation. But not fully living the belief of, without the charity, there is no salvation. So without charity, there is no salvation. With this maximum, as a rule, all men and women are brothers and sisters. And whatever they may be, the way in which they worship the Creator, they hold out their hands to one another and pray for one another. That's it. If we have differences, it's fine. Simone told yesterday, in the Spiritist Center, there will always be differences because we're different human beings. Can you imagine how boring it would be if everybody was like you or like me? It would be like, like a deadline when somebody is at the hospital, when the heart is beating, is like this. When it's dead, a flat line. That would be us. If everybody was a Jenna, a Maggie, or Antonia. Then Antonia would look in the mirror and say, wow, I wish that somebody was different, so we could have a little. It's important. And in the Spirit Center, these differences actually makes the relationship better because it's inviting us to work with one another, accept one another as they are, and vice versa. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that we're not here for ourselves, but for Jesus, to work with Jesus. And then now going to my last ones, because I think I have about 5 minutes. Is that right? What time is it? Okay. Okay. So I got this picture because I thought it was so interesting, to talk about. Okay, let me go to my. Oh, where is that? Okay, I'm gonna go to that one then. So talking about now going to about the truth, because we said, about the religion, now let's talk about the truth. What person could, how do you say that? Boast of possessing the whole truth when the circle of knowledge is increasing constantly and ideas are being rectified each and every day. Meaning, the truth we knew yesterday is not the truth we know today, because every day we're learning and every day we are catching a little bit of the whole truth. We don't possess the whole truth. I was going over, this talk, because I've done here, I think, another 2 times, so I had different slides. And as I was reading, I was like, wow, I spoke like that? You know what you mean? Like, you even look at the things you did and you go like, oh, my perception at that time was, in that box. So I was able to change a few things and bring, a little extra. So that's the truth. When we learned that every single day, we are actually, getting a little bit and making it bigger. The absolute truth is shared only amongst spirits of highest order. And earthly humankind could not pretend to belong to that order. So we can't pretend we belong because it has not been given it to know everything. So they go straight to the point. This is the spirits talking. Humans can aspire only to a relative truth proportional to their advancement. So yes, we all here have our own truths. We may see things in different ways, and that's fine, because we all are in a different level of advancement. I did a talk last week about, the sympathy and antipathy of spirits. And I thought there was a very interesting question that said in the book of the spirits, I don't remember now the answer, not the answer, the question number, that said, so if we have antipathy for someone or a spirit, does that mean that that spirit is evil? And the answer was no. Just because you have antipathy of a spirit, it does not mean that both, are evil. So the answer was, because you may share different views of things. That's why the antipathy. But there will be one day where everybody will level up the knowledge, and this way, the antipathy will be gone. And that, even with us in the Spiritist Center, if we have differences, there will be one day that those differences are gone. So today is the day you are invited, I am invited, to work on ourselves. Having, our focus for the future. Future in this life, but most important, the future life. Now let me come back here because I have a note here. So I put, the last one because it was big this size, this part. My friends, give thanks to God who has allowed you to enjoy the light of Spiritism. Not because those who possess this enlightenment are the only ones who will be saved, but because in helping you to understand Christ's teachings more fully, it makes you better Christians. Because at the end of the day, we're all Christians, meaning that we are following, our motto and guide. And then to come to our last slide, I wanted to finish talking, bringing this from Paul the Apostle. And I love this guy, from the, I think it's called Son of Christ, and it's on Netflix. I really love this show because it kind of gives the whole story, from the beginning when Abraham, and then it is more, it brings the historic facts. And I like because it doesn't go like to one side or to the other. It kind of stays in the middle, but brings all the information we already know. And so this actor actually did a beautiful job. And so to finish, we're going, Paul, said, so make every effort so that when others observe you, they can say that the true Spiritist and the true Christian are one and the same thing. For all who practice charity are Jesus' disciples. Whatever the denomination to which they belong. So here we are, today at a Spiritist Center. But the ones who are meeting in a Catholic, Gospel, Evangelical, Jewish, Buddhist, we're all the same. We all have the same goal. But most important, the charity that we are, that when they talk about charity, everyone can do it. The one with no money, the one with money. There are people who may need a hug. Have you ever had a day that you wanted to cry, you didn't know, and then somebody looks you in the eye and say, are you okay? Most of the times we want to say no, but we say yes. But then the person knows we're not, and they give you a hug, and then you just cry. That happens to me ever so often. Because charity is about that. It's sharing that one moment with that one person, knowing that in that single moment, she's the only person in the world, the most important. And let's not forget to do charity with ourselves. Because how can we help others when we are not helping ourselves? So that's the message I had for today. And, I really hope that we can take home all. Sí, es lindo, ¿no? Do you want me to do the final prayer? Okay. So we're going to leave this picture. Well, you can. Thank you. So I would like to invite everyone to close your eyes. Dear Father, you have given us so much. We have started from the beginning point, created all equal. And as time goes by, we make choices. And here we are today, the product of our choices. So give us the strength so we can take a look inside of us and find the points that still need attention, validate the points that are already good, because Father, we love you and we need your love. Dear Jesus, we thank you too for your time, for your love, for allowing us to be here, and for our Spirit's mentor. Thank you for never leaving us behind, for always believing that we can do better. Because God, Jesus, and our Spirit mentors, they see us not as a stone, but as the final product of a diamond, shining and beautiful. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. So be it.